compared to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route to do. We the people are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited.
Oh, there I am, poking around in the bottom of the corner. No, wrong one again. See if I can put that one up. No, does that make it any better? No, found it. There you go. Vince is the one who looks well in control of those buttons, but I can't wake him up at the moment. I do apologise. How are you, folks? Hope you're having a reasonably good week of it so far. My apologies for not being around last night. There was a measure of intent to do a little something for you last night. God knows we'll see a bit of it tonight because I did have it planned, but one thing leading to another. I've had, what can I say? I've had a lot of things going on over the last, well, I'll call it week. I've always got a lot of things going on, but in particular, two gentlemen have come into my life that are requiring a bit more attention than I would usually probably be able to provide. But these guys are needing my help and assistance in ways I wasn't even sure I was able to help them with. So, proving interesting. So we will get to talk more about that at an appropriate time, but this is not that time. So got caught up with one of those guys last night, so my apologies. And I trust that you didn't miss me too much. There's a fair bit going on in the world. If you're looking around and hearing bits and pieces as I am, and some of the stuff we're going to see tonight, you'll see I've taken some screen grabs of information from others. Now, these are information updates that relate to things like Nasara Jasara, the quantum financial system, and changing of the guard and the financial system, yada, yada, yada. These are all things none of us have never heard before, and I am merely going to show them to you a little later on tonight, just to emphasize once again, here is somebody throwing dates out, and in this case, they are dates starting from the 7th of December. I do believe there is a fair bit going on in the financial system behind the scenes, and you really only have to keep a bit of an eye on the gold and silver prices to believe that that's the case. I mean, at the moment, ainslebullion.com.au is showing silver at $87.81 an ounce, and gold, the spot price there is $6,308.77. That's down about $150 from what it was one day last week, and the silver spot is down maybe $2. It hasn't really kicked and stayed through the $90 mark yet. That's because somewhere, somehow, someone is bringing an awful lot of fiat currency back into the system. I've also heard the COMEX has been, or trading in the COMEX has been suspended. Now, I don't know if that's true. And even if it was true, I really don't know, other than it stops the losses being exposed, I guess, but it won't stop. It won't stop the actual exposure of them. It might stop it being publicly viewed for a little while, but the market's going to crash and there's not much they can do about it. And they're hoping, I think, to hedge their bets and try and get out of it in some way, shape or form. Ainslie Bullion's team, who do a lot of analysis on not just the gold and silver markets, but all precious metals, they've got some really brilliant insights, and I guess that's why they call them the Ainslie Insights team. I would recommend that you go and have a bit of a look at those and see what they say, because they've got access to the data. And my word, there is a ton of it that goes back years. They've been in the game, over 50 years. You can trust them. Good people. ainslebullion.com.au. You can buy online, get your stuff sent to you. You don't have to queue up, line up, stand up, do anything up. And, of course, as somebody rang me today and was quite surprised to learn, you can buy up to $5,000 worth of anything and not have it reported to government, so to speak. It's only, I think it's transactions over $5,000, which doesn't help you if you want to buy an ounce coin, I guess, but it does help you if you buy 2 half-ounce gold coins. Maybe not just at the same time. I don't know if you've got to split that or something in a day or whatever, or transactions, but you could just be a half-ounce coin collector, and that would, in theory, not make it reportable. But if you have questions, ainsleyBullion.com.au, and the team from Ainslie, who you can call in Melbourne, Sydney, I beg your pardon, Melbourne, Brisbane, or the Gold Coast, then by all means, give them a ring and the team will be able to answer all your questions. Rachel was first in the house tonight. How wonderful. Yes, social media closing tonight. So if you are watching this on Facebook or X, I think we're streaming on, anything on a Google-owned platform, so that would include, but not necessarily limit us to, things like YouTube and possibly Rumble. I'm pretty confident that Google took a sizable share in Rumble some time ago, and they may, although I'm unaware if they have been listed, but they may get listed as well, which means that those channels will probably require some kind of help to sign into. Speaking of signing in, if you use anything like Google Chrome, anything Google at all, you are going to have to sign into it and prove who you are through whichever steps the Australian government is now going to force these companies to take. That will mean that your browsers, like Google Chrome, will not work if you don't sign into them. They won't remember what you were looking at. They won't give you all the little things that you're used to having, I guess, while you're browsing. The interesting thing for me, and this works the same for under 16-year-olds, is that if you don't sign in, you still get to see the content. You just don't get the tailored content that you would ordinarily get if you were signed in. So all that threatening content that a 16-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 12-year-old could be exposed to because the system knows that it's 12 years old and can target them. Well, the theory, I guess, is that now, without being able to sign in, they won't be able to be targeted. However, they can still going to be quite lawful for them to surf the web, in the old way, where nothing was tailored and you just sort of typed in what you wanted to find and went and found it. But that'll mean you'll need a search engine, and Google will not allow you to search anything from December the 27th unless you are signed in and proved who you say you are going to be that day. Now, I've already lost 2 channels on YouTube for my comments last week, which I thought were to do with, one of my comments, it was the New Republican movement statement that was being made with 2 gentlemen standing with sticks that can make loud noises in the background. And I thought it was because of those sticks that make loud noises in the background that the Nancy-controlled YouTube took those 2 channels off. I don't know why they chose those 2 and left this one that you're watching, if you're watching a YouTube channel, still up. But that's what they chose to do. I guess maybe give it another week because they know they're going to kick me out on December the 10th anyway. Just happens to be my mum's 90th birthday. What an anniversary. She turns 90. I get kicked off YouTube. Yay. So interesting times. Where are we going to go? What are we going to do? Well, don't expect me to get on InstaTwat or Twatagram or any of those things. I won't be doing any of that. If Facebook kicks me out, then so be it. I won't be going back into Facebook. If you are part of my place, then you want to be involved in the Unity Hub. Now, the Unity Hub does fall under some of the laws, I guess, that the restrictions, or they're based in Australia, so they're going to fall under Australian law. But I don't believe that the community in the Unity Hub actually falls under any of these sort of weird under 16 social media type guidelines. So go and check out your My Place Unity Hub app, which is a download. And that gets me back to how you're going to download these things. Well, if you're kicked out of Google and you're kicked out of Chrome, you won't have access to a search engine to find anything. How are you going to find a new browser that will allow you to peruse the internet and download and look at whatever you want to particularly look at, unrestricted, unrestrained, uncensored? Well, get a pen out, because I'm going to tell you the name of one that you should go and download, and don't go and Google it, because it will not turn up, I doubt, in Google. All right. I should have tested this before I started. Let me just type it in and see if the website is what I think it is. Yes. Okay. So it is, thankfully. There is a browser that, if you don't want to have to deal with Google, and you will not have a search engine because they own, obviously, the Google search engine, and I think they bought DuckDuckGo a little while ago as well. You're going to have access doing all sorts of things, because Google Chrome and all of the little extensions that it brings to you will become inactive unless you take the bait and sign in, become part of the digital community. So get a pen or get your computer out, and I want you to go to brave.com, BRAVE.com. Now, there you can click a big orange button that says Get Brave. And I've had Brave on my computer now for quite some time. It's a very simple, very easy to operate system, and you will be very familiar with it practically immediately, because it says, does, and almost looks exactly like probably the one you're most used to using. Now, if you use Safari or another browser like that, you too are going to be kicked out, because your Apple products are all interlinked. So while I've got a knackered iPad, apparently now Telstra are going to make me continue paying for that knackered iPad, even though I'll be locked out of it because I won't agree to sign in to the digitized requirements that they need for it. So they get you coming, they get you going, and they get you all the way in between. They are mongrel bastards, that's all I can say. So what are we doing about it? Where are we going to go? Well, I've told you, go and download Brave at brave.com. From there, you can try DuckDuckGo. You will potentially be able to access, without going into it and saying too much, because I'm not sure exactly how or what I'm going to get kicked off of by tomorrow, so I'm trying not to give them every reason to kick me off. But once you've downloaded Brave and used that, I'm sure there will be a lot of suggestions come up if you're looking for search engines, reliable things that you can trust, if you don't already have some. Now, I would not be going for ChatGPT if you are an AI user. And we will talk another night this week about different kinds of AI that you might find useful. And where will we talk about them? Well, if you're watching the YouTube channel, maybe we'll be on there tomorrow, and I will attempt to do a live off the phone tomorrow morning just to see whether or not I can get on and do it. But that, I doubt, will work. I doubt we'll be able to get on there from midnight tonight, and probably 11 o'clock, given Eastern Daylight Savings Time. So many restrictions many companies are going to find when they go to work tomorrow, they're all going to have to put in some kind of company login. Somebody's going to need to be responsible for the company AI, I beg your pardon, photo recognition. So somebody's head's going to need to be readily available to log people into their computers. This is going to be such a mess. This is going to be such a mess. And the kids have already started finding ways around it. Now, Matt Canavan did put it to that absolute crazed woman that wants to do all sorts of evil things to us. She who says she must be obeyed, Inman Grant, Julie Inman Grant. Matt Canavan put to her a scenario that is not unlike a realistic scenario for thousands upon thousands upon thousands of families with young children around this nation every day that use YouTube as an educational tool. And while he asked questions of the commissioner and her under things, because the commissioner herself, that information, this thing, it hasn't any understanding of what the rules are. It just swans around spending hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of our dollars going to international meetings, telling her what the bureaucrats behind her are doing to stop everything. So those under things had to admit to Matt Canavan that, yes, that if he was letting his children use his account, then Google may, in fact, ban his account as well, which would be a pretty bad thing considering he's an Australian senator. Not just that. I mean, the biggest reason should be because they have banned the free speech of an Australian. But as we've spoken about here previously, we don't actually have anything anywhere in any of our documentation from Federation or before that guarantees us free speech. Nothing. Americans have the Bill of Rights, the document, the other document, what's it called? The independence document, which guarantees certain liberties and rights to certain things, including speech, but we don't have that. Thank you, Suze, for remembering to shove that thing up. Please, folks, it is very important to hit the thumbs up if you can. And the only reason you couldn't do it is because you're too lazy or you don't agree with what we're saying or you can't support what we're doing, in which case, nice to have you here. Is it your first night? I do hope you're finding something. We'll get into a few more interesting pictures and a bit more comment shortly, but love to have you aboard and just give us a thumbs up for the first night. And if you come back tomorrow, I'd like to see you subscribe, a bit like Rachel did ages ago. And, well before she got her new baby, whose name is Jimmy. And no, she didn't give birth to Jimmy. He sort of turned up on the doorstep looking a bit forlorn and sad because his master had just passed away. And now he's got a couple of teeth that have got to be removed, poor old bugger. She took him to the vet not all that long ago and he had his manhood removed, or at least, the dangly bits. And now it's a couple of teeth. He won't know himself, but he is looking like a new dog. Got to be happy with that. Thank you, Aussie Sue, for everything that you do. The electricity rebates have finished. Yeah, now how's that going to go for people? I wonder how many people realize that solar was so cheap because of the rebates. Electricity has only been kept down as badly as it has been by these rebates. They're gone. So expect your electricity bill to go straight through the roof sooner rather than later. I couldn't agree. It's going to be a absolute shit fight. Electricity, energy prices in this country. And it won't be until we have somebody that we trust in some sort of leadership role who will rationally open the debate to nuclear power in this country, because we need nuclear power in this country. We are a large, well-developed first world nation that now has an overpopulation problem, and energy is going to become critical over the next couple of years. Energy regulators are already predicting that we are going to have blackouts, rolling blackouts, and brownouts in 2027. Why? All because of the decisions made by successive governments influenced by lobbyists. We have to change that, folks. It has to be changed. It has to be changed. Now, if this is true, I'm all for it, Daniel. Over 12,000 British cops walked off the job due to political corruption. Australia is next. Well, I hope that is the case. I really hope that is the case. Why do I really hope that is the case? Well, we're all sick to death of the corruption. It's, well, to be honest, it's just everywhere. And you really can't expect a great deal of respect from many Australians when we've seen police do what they have done. We've seen government do what it has done by ramrodding things through the Australian Parliament without debate, etc. And the police just ramming things into us, we the people, whether that be pepper spray, a baton, or a fist, an elbow, a boot, or a knee. Never forget, folks. Never, ever forget what they did. There are still those amongst them who did that. Never forget what they did. Now, as I mentioned the other night, police forces around the country are having a huge issue at the moment. They've got many experienced, but more so, many of the lesser experienced officers who've only been in the game maybe up to 4 or 5 years. So they're still senior constable or constable, maybe senior constable level. And they're getting out. They don't like what they're seeing. They don't like what they're being made to do by their government, by their leaders, who say they're just following instructions. And they might be just following instructions, but those instructions are, in many cases, questionable, obviously morally questionable for many of these new recruits. Now, that's led to a recruiting crisis, not just in Victoria, but in Queensland, in New South Wales, South Australia, Western Australia, and I assume South Australia and Northern Territory recruiting the same way. Tasmania is also having issues, and they've been importing police now from the UK. And this must be soul-destroying for some of these experienced international police, let's call them. There have been many good coppers who've come out of the UK because they couldn't believe what they were being made to do over there, and they didn't want to be part of the British police force anymore because they could see just how corrupt their bosses were. So they get offered a big money job on the other side of the world in New Zealand or Australia to come and basically police exactly the same laws and be given fast-track access to citizenship and quite a number of incentives to come over and bring the family. I don't really have a big issue with that either, I suppose. You know, they're experienced coppers and we want people who are experienced. However, how shocked and disappointed must many of these new arriving police be when they find that their new bosses are just as, if not more corrupt than the ones they've left behind in the old dart with their family, their extended family, and their friends. It's got to be pretty soul-destroying for them, don't you think? And, of course, they're committed. They've come to the other side of the world. They've bought a house, or they need to, they want to, but geez, do they really want to be a copper? Can they get any other work if they don't want to be a copper? About when does the citizenship thing kick in? Is there a return of service that they have to put in? And maybe some of them just aren't up to it. That's what I'm hearing. Some of them would prefer to go home. Some of them think they could probably take up playing cricket for the country, and God knows they couldn't do any worse than the bunch they've sent out to try and take the Ashes off us this season. Not that I've seen one ball of the Ashes tests bowled. I haven't. I believe it's one of those circuses they keep us, entertained with. But cricket used to mean a great deal to me, and I did read that we're doing quite well in that stakes. I think we're 2 up or something in the 5. Used to be a 5-test series. They've probably made it 3 now because the English get a bit puffed if they've got to do 5. I know they used to have they used to demand a rest day in a 5-day test. God, no wonder. Anyway, let's move on, shall we? I'm looking at the wrong thing. I should be looking at your live chat. I'm looking at some of these saved things. Right, so where are we going to go to? Right, well, Rumble and BitChute. Now, YouTube are probably going to ban me for saying both of those names out loud. I have posted them up in the chat previously. Now, what I'm going to do is post them up in the chat again once I copy them. Copy. Okay, so this, I think, will be the Rumble link. Now, Rumble has been comments live. There we go. Paste. Rumble has been around with me for a little while. We've been, I think we've been pretty much transmitting on Rumble since the very beginning. Now, BitChute, I have not been broadcasting on. I have not been live streaming on. I did set up a BitChute channel ages ago, thinking that, yes, it'll be a good channel to, try and have as a backup. But it was a very blocky experience. Their servers weren't great. The content in many cases was very frightening for people who haven't been down some of the deepest rabbit holes, and I didn't want to throw it on people. So I have to be honest, I hadn't even looked at BitChute in probably 2 years until yesterday, and it's coming up and changing. Still has awesome content, I've got to say, but here you will find the BitChute channel where we're live streaming now. If I got it all right, let me just flick over and see if that's actually the case. I don't want the audio to come on, if I can help it. Oh, and it's working over on BitChute. So, very, very good indeed. There is nobody watching it on BitChute, but I wouldn't expect that to be the case. So, if we disappear, and I fully expect that we will disappear off YouTube, Facebook, Twittergram, and what's the other one? X these days, whatever it is. All of that'll be gone tomorrow. Not that I was ever working them very hard. Now, if you haven't already done so, you might want to download Telegram. Telegram is another app, and you will find me under 2 different names on Telegram. You'll find me as the Voice of Freedom. Just look for the white Voice of Freedom microphone that stands up with the orange O in it as the logo. And you will also find me as Oz Eyes Logic. All one word, Oz Eyes. Might be all one word, Oz Eyes Logic. And there, I'll start to be, that'll be more like the social media area. You can post things up in there, and you can contact me in there. And we'll see what goes on over the next few days. I do tend to agree, Daniel. I do tend to agree. But we've got to use something at the moment. There is Signal as well, and people say, oh, we're going to use WhatsApp. Well, WhatsApp's owned as well, I think, by Google. So there are so many infiltrated companies. There are some other things that are available. I haven't been able to check them out because of what I've been up to this week. But there is something that, starts with lemon and ends with aid that you can go and check out. And it's not a drink or an icy pole. It's a new sort of area where kids can go. The government have created a huge issue, and I'm sure they've created it deliberately. While they think they're going to protect the young people from whatever they think they're protecting them from, it's going to drive young people underground, and young people will find ways around every system to exploit it. Now, I heard a very good argument that says, okay, well, that might well be the case, Carl, but kids won't go where their friends can't go. So while one or two may find out how to access, using different ways, how to cheat the system and be able to get into social media, they won't be able to find any of their friends because most of them won't go through the hoops or jump through the hoops or whatever. I think that's quite a valid argument. This just has to last long enough for a generation, or not a generation, but just a year for them to find a new way around or something else to get fixated on. And they will be presented with that solution by the system if they scream loud enough. So watch this space. Also watch this space because, like I keep saying, I personally didn't think it was going to happen. Well, it's going to happen. But that's only because those companies that have said, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, have got to wait for the government to do it before they take them to court. So you can rest assured that come 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, there will be a number of High Court challenges, including from a 15-year-old girl who is personally taking Anthony Albanese to court over all of this. Not sure how that's going to work out for her. Reddit is mounting a legal challenge to the Australian government's world-first social media age limits. The platforms has enlisted barrister Perry Hertzfeld and the law firm of Thompson Gear to run its case. Reddit's lawsuit is expected to challenge the ban's restrictions on teenagers' implied right to freedom of political communication. Interesting. I didn't know teenagers had an implied right to political communication. We have implied rights to speech. Don't get that confused with freedom of speech. We have implied rights of speech. It's implied that we can speak. It's not stated as a fact. It is implied. Why is that? Well, that is because unless you are speaking in legalese using a Black's Law dictionary, then you are speaking in gobbledygook, particularly in a court. If you are dealing now, they seem to have spread that out of the courts and into most levels of, well, all levels of government down to local councils. You don't speak the language they speak, and therefore they can't understand you. Language, it means things. So I think that there will be a number of challenges presented tomorrow by the likes of Meta and Google and associated others. Pardon me. What sort of success they will have, who knows? How many politicians, how many Labor politicians have kids that this is going to affect? And And of course, we've got Oprah Winfrey out here at the moment to say, oh, it's okay, girls. It's all for the best. We're fighting back against the pedophiles when she may have a number of questions to answer herself. So she's out here doing little interviews and whatnot, and just happens to be at this time. I found out today Tyra Banks has moved to Australia. What does she sell? Ice cream. Well, I would say that there's more money in selling ice cream than probably solar at the moment, particularly over in New South Wales, where it's just going up in flames. Now, I find this interesting because they set themselves on fire. I mean, that is a pretty spectacular thing to be doing, I'll be honest. These things, these solar farms, setting themselves on fire. However, it's a bit tragic because that solar farm fire is going to cost somewhere between $4 and $6 million to fix because it has burnt out some major wiring somewhere, some components on every port or something I've heard. The other problem that it has is that the energy grid of New South Wales was, in fact, going to be relying on the power generated from those particular cells to be sent to that big battery that blew up a couple of weeks ago. Remember that? That bloody huge battery in New South Wales that was going to store all this power coming in from these wonderful things. Wow. All that's quite literally gone up in smoke, and self-ignited smoke, where it appears, and I've only heard stories, so I'm going to say allegedly here. It is going to be alleged that certain parts of the apparatus that hold and or steer these panels is not made to withstand Australian conditions, and it, when is heated to significant temperatures from external sources, can begin to melt, and if it melts, then it hits something on the inside that can cause a flame. So if that's what's happened in one or more of these things, in theory, from what I'm led to believe, they're meant to burn very quickly and go out. But because the way that Australian temperatures work, and who knows how hot it was in that paddock that day. And this is out near somewhere near Dubbo. This happened, so you got to think mid-30s at the very least would be the temperature that it was in. Quite probably higher. Then there might have been a lot of failures in that particular paddock of that particular part, and that's why the fire seemed to go up in a fairly uniform kind of way. At any rate, between $4 and $6 million of Australian taxpayer funds, probably New South Wales taxpayer funds, going up in smoke. However, the state government have been proactive in making sure that it doesn't happen to any other solar farms in New South Wales, and I dare say Victoria will follow suit very shortly. Now, the government has sent somebody out to Bunnings to buy every beach umbrella they can. This has had a twofold effect. Bunnings have sold out of beach umbrellas, and Bunnings' share price has gone through the roof. So it's the kind of thing you'd expect the bureaucrats to do, though, isn't it? Well, what about other things we'd expect the bureaucrats to do? This Annika Wells thing is just a gift that keeps on giving. Unless you're a useless Liberal Party who don't seem to be able to make appropriate mileage out of what looks to be a gravy train riding minister who is just on a rampage to suck the tit dry any way she can. And her husband is along for the ride. He turns out to be a lobbyist for Suncorp, who've just been awarded a multi-billion-dollar solar panel contract on an Indigenous land in the Northern Territory. Did anybody ask if there was a conflict of interest? I doubt it. She has been caught taking him to not one, but I think the last 3 AFL Grand Finals on the public purse, at least one Formula One Grand Prix, and the ticket alone for that was nearly $1,500. So that would have been a sweet access ticket. It won't have been necessarily in the pit paddock, I don't think, but it might have been a long pit lane there somewhere. And she, of course, being the minister for, well, whatever kind of sport it happens to be, would have attended by invitation. She left a car, and I got to tell you, this is a job when I was driving limos I would have loved to get into, but it's a closed shop. Car driving, Commonwealth car driving. My Lord. I got talking to one of those guys one day, and the money they got paid per job, staggering. Now, by comparison, they were making 3.5 times what we as normal limo drivers would make doing an airport pickup for a minister, right? But then the minister might want the car available all day. So that price was 3 times what we would be charging for the same thing. And that's exactly what the government likes to do, particularly this Annika Wells. She went to the tennis and had the car wait for 7 hours while she went to the tennis and watched the women's singles final. Now, I don't know. I don't follow the circuses too much. But was there a 7-hour women's match in the tennis earlier this year? There might have been. But why would you ask the car to stay? All the driver does is find a shady car park somewhere, not too far from where they are. He might be able to talk his way underneath into a secure area, and he may even be able to talk himself up into an area where he can get a drink and sit down in the air conditioning and watch whatever's going on. So it won't have been a terribly taxing job for the driver, trust me. And he got paid 7 hours sitting there. Now, I think I saw the price quoted at a little over $1,300 or was it $1,700 for that. She's also had them wait for her at, quite a number of other things, as it turns out, sporting events. They've spent hours and hours and hours and hours waiting, and all for just, so what? She can leave whenever she likes. Ministers, it has been my experience, their schedules are timed to the minute. That means that they're there at this point in time, and if they're going to the tennis, then they're at the tennis until this time. If they don't have any other appointments afterwards and the tennis is extended, well, then so be it. I understand. But they do a phenomenal amount of work to keep the minister on time and on schedule. So having a car just standing by, well, maybe she thinks she's so important that there might be a security risk for her and she needs to have her car ready to drive away. Well, I'm not completely sure that the car they give her is bulletproof. I'm certainly sure that it's not made in Australia, and it probably will have run flat tyres, so she can be safe about that. Speaking of running, will she run? Will she resign? Will there be enough gumption in the Australian Prime Minister and the Australian Finance Minister, you know, that mean girl, Katie Gallagher, to put the pressure on this woman to say, hey, listen, You're not giving us all a very Merry Christmas. And we, being the captain rats on this boat, have decided that you were too stupid for the rest of the ride. Are you going to walk the plank, or are we going to have to throw you off the boat? And I'm sure that she will be incentivized to walk the plank herself. Whether that is getting out of the parliament, I don't know. She's certainly racking up enough points with the Australian people to become completely unelectable again. The campaign for wherever she sits, it's somewhere in Queensland. I think she's a Queenslander. And I want to say she's a Brisbane person. Could be wrong. The campaign against her is going to be very easy. Pig, snout, trough together. It's a very easy campaign. People are sick to death of the government wastage, and the people of Victoria lead in their disgust at government wastage. Those machete bins that were built at a cost of $13 million? They weren't even built in Victorian jails. They were built in the South Australian jail and then put on trucks and trucked from South Australia to, I want to say, 44 locations across Victoria, where they were aptly ignored by all of the criminals who didn't hand over their machetes at all. But the good people who hadn't ever waved a machete in anger at anyone or anything larger than a nasty weed had to go and hand them in. Turns out, not so many. And now, $13 million worth of bins. Can you see where $13 million, that's with an M, $13 million went into these bins? Well, the first of them got chewed up through the scrap maker just the other day. Absolutely freaking stunning. So congratulations, Victorian state government. That would have to rate right up there as, to my knowledge, one of the better and faster complete wastes of public money. But waste is, well, only waste if you view it from a certain perspective, isn't it? If you view it from another perspective, like, I don't know, opportunity, it's an opportunity for somebody to have made an awful lot of friggin' money. Somewhere between the prisoner who welded and bent these things into shape and the truck driver who put them on his truck and took them across Victoria and delivered them to the company responsible for putting them out on behalf of the Victorian state government at various locations. Somewhere in that process, some money, a lot of it, millions of dollars, has been appropriated somewhere. And then from the time where these machete bins were taken off the streets, because they were only out there, I think, for 3 months or something like that, somewhere in that period, some more of that money went missing. And now that they're off the streets, presumably the machetes have been taken out and redistributed into parts north and, east of Melbourne. Now they're going to destroy the boxes that collected them. And the other millions of dollars will get taken away nicely, supposedly legally. So Victorians, congratulations. You've just had another $13 million hoodwinked out of your bank account, all thanks to that piece of work who just thinks that Dan Andrews is a marvelous human being. Dan Andrews, the marvelous human being, has been ordered by a federal court to provide notice of defense to defamation and other charges relating to a car accident involving a young man back in the day down in Victoria. They have so far ignored everything about this case, but now a judge has made an order that they must stand up and face the music. So expect news on that just after Christmas in January. It should prove to be enlightening at the very, very least. Speaking of coming up to Christmas and things proving enlightening, well, will they be enlightening? Now, here's some of the stuff I mentioned earlier. Now, here are some dates that have been given out by somebody else. I'm not going to name them, although I should probably credit them for all of this, but I don't want to credit anybody with it because what I'm going to say is look at the dates. So the 7th of December, now that's 2 days ago for us, a day ago for them. It's saying that martial law was declared across hundreds of US cities. Now, I don't know about you. I haven't had any of my friends in US cities tell me that they've gone under martial law. The Global Military Alliance began executing sweeping arrests of cabal remnants, politicians and corporate titans. Trafficking overlords were also being taken into custody as Gitmo's tribunals expanded. Well, Gitmo's tribunals may expand, but has Gitmo? Because last I heard, they couldn't fit any more people there, and they were sending them to Guam. In fact, 2 very large boatloads of them went to Guam, Navy boatloads. Did anybody hear about these rescued operations for the kids that happened last December 6th? Global currency revaluations will soon ignite with martial law providing cover at these redemption centers. The redemption centers they're referring to, if you have a lot of cash, you can take that lot of cash in and hand it in at this redemption center and be given whatever it is that the RV, and I suspect it's probably going to be the rainbow currency in return. That would be a digital currency, a programmable currency, and you all know how we feel about programmable currencies, don't you? Please God. Emergency broadcast system was poised. That doesn't mean triggered, was poised for worldwide activation as early as Tuesday, December 9. Haven't heard it here yet, but who knows? Tomorrow being December the 10th, and in fact, it'll be December 9 in America very shortly, I think. We will have to wait and see. But then 10 days of darkness to dismantle everything. Tier 4B exchanges will begin to commence on Wednesday, December the 10th. What does that mean? Well, that means that there's going to be money flooding into people's accounts, apparently. And then, of course, medbeds will begin prioritizing distribution through these redemption centers, which we'll be told to turn up at. Payments, full payouts, will flood secure accounts worldwide, with Nasara Jassara enacting total debt forgiveness across nations, wiping away mortgages, loans, yada, 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 yada. We've heard it all before, have we not? Don't we hear it every year about this time? And maybe once or twice during the year at various different times where we all get hopeful, and God knows I am praying for it to happen in certain ways. But the more I think about what I'm praying to have happen is I think we're just going to get caught in the trap one way or the other. How much in the digital trap do you want to get caught will be up to you. So I'm making plans to get as little as possible of me caught in that digital trap. And the best way to do that is to have, well, at this stage, cash and a little bit of gold or a little bit of silver if you are lucky enough to have some. Now, I don't have much of any of that, but I'm going to make it do with whatever I can because I am not willing to sacrifice what I see as my soul just so that I can access something a little bit faster. Somebody said to me, "Oh, you'll be able to get the pension soon." And I said, "Well, maybe might be able to get it, but I won't be getting it, because what sort of a hypocrite would I be? I just can't bring myself to do it. And it's going to mean signing up to all sorts of government bastardry, which, once again, probably I am not the person you want to invite into Centrelink, I can tell you. I really am not. I never thought I had a problem with anger or with anxiety, but stick me in Centrelink. I'll show you anxiety, and then I'll show you anger. And it's not pretty. So no. Even if I were stupid enough to walk into that place and put myself up for it, I'm very confident the bastards would throw me out and make sure I was cut off. So no, my soul means more to me than that. And I hope, and I am quite sure, that yours does as well. If you already signed up for it, you already signed up for it, folks. Don't feel guilty. And I'm not in a position where, I can afford to not have some sort of money coming in. And I guess if everything were to change and I was forced, who knows what I might do. But at this stage, my plan is to stay staunch and not be involved. I believe that this, like COVID, is temporary. And if we can fight the battle, if we can stay the course for the next year or two, maybe 3, then we will come through it. And who knows what will come out in the next year, the next 2, the next 3, that will make our coming out at the end of all this that much richer. I don't mean financially, but I mean spiritually. It'd be great if it came out financially as well, I'll be honest. But I think if we're fixated on our financial side too much, we're not going to be developing, growing, healing, and understanding our spiritual side nearly enough. Nearly enough. I'm just seeing a couple of the comments here. Yeah, if you want to keep your pension, get digital ID. Well, as they say, they've got to offer alternatives at the moment for those people that are going to need it. I would be taking those alternatives while they are being offered. But there's no guarantee that in 2 years' time those alternatives will be acceptable anymore. I mean, you would have thought that a letter from your doctor saying this person has a medical condition and cannot be subjected to the jab would be enough for anybody in the position of giving you a jab to say, okay, you're on your way, no worries. But no, a letter from a medical professional about their patient with a life-threatening condition that could be directly impacted by a social experiment, that could be overruled by a bureaucrat, or not even a bureaucrat, a medical professional who was gowned up. And what was the excuse many of them proffered when they turned and spat rejection at those people waving this bit of paper? I don't care. I don't care what piece of paper says. I don't care what doctor blessed it. I don't care what you think you have. If you are coming into this hospital, you are going to have the jab. That's what they said. I don't care. I think I said once before, I'm going to write a book and I'm going to call it that. The 3 most dangerous words in the world. I don't care. It's self-programming. And I'm very good at saying it. I'm better at not saying it these days than I have been before. But really understand what you are doing. Bear in mind, words mean things, and spelling doesn't just mean you got, a thumbs up and a gold star at a test once a week at primary school. It means what it means, spelling. So, yeah, we're going to do no, I'm not going to tell you what we're going to do. There'll be more to do with words next year. Just going to say, it was been talking to a professional. Centerflunk has stuffy air conditioning, passive psychology. Yeah, that's exactly what they do. Mind numb you. And I guess the people who are sitting there they are the kind of people who are able to be subjected to that kind of reinforced psychology, that reinforced programming. Even easier now that they've got screens. And I'm pretty confident that the government, like I say, I haven't been into a Centrelink in a very, very, very long time. But last one I was in had screens in it that they were running some kind of internal programming. It wasn't like you were watching the morning show or anything like that. They were running something that was created by the government, I think, out of the Tuggeranong TV centre that they have. And yes, I'm not kidding. There is a large broadcast centre capable of broadcasting into every one of those Centrelinks or government building, any government building for that matter, I think. It used to be in Tuggeranong. Had a mate that used to work there, and I think they replaced him with AI. As so many others are calling me today to say. I had a radio station, a radio industry friend of mine ring me to do some voice work, which I did yesterday. And we were having a bit of a chat. He said, I got the sack from the company he was working with, one of the biggest, the fifth largest in the world, and either the largest or the second largest commercial network in this country. They sacked him, replaced him with a mixture of automatic FTP protocols and an AI. And what was his job? His job was working in traffic or scheduling, making sure that ads got into the system and were there to play when the system demanded them to be played. Back in the day when I was working in radio, we used to call that job the cart boy's job, because you had to dub every ad in off a reel-to-reel tape. These days, it's just really checking that the system has automatically picked it up. But nowadays, they don't even need a body for that. So they've sacked not just my mate, but all the staff in a number of facilities in Queensland, New South Wales, and I think in South Australia as well. So happy days. That company is trying to make itself very attractive for sale. And there's a reason, because there's a bunch of idiots who've owned it for some time who have never been committed to radio, have been committed to money. And they thought that the money would just be there for them. They could treat the people in radio who love it and worked in their stations like shit and suck them dry of their creativity and then sack them and then still be able to make money. Turns out people in the bush have a very long memory. People in the bush enjoy having a local and live radio station. And they do not enjoy big city slickers bringing in the likes of Kyle and Jackie O and slapping them on their breakfast radio offering. More on that coming next year too. But it just goes to show how out of date these big radio networks are and how much money they are losing. Hand over fist. So if the war is to go our way, somebody once said they were going to put me in charge of the ABC. God, wouldn't I love that? We would certainly rattle the cages there, and it would be for the better. it would be for the better. Commercial radio, I don't know will even exist after what's comes, because they're all owned by corrupt people who can be bought and bribed. I'm not saying they're bad people. I'm just saying that their morals are less than those that you would want in charge of a mass communication device capable of programming people. If you're going to have those sorts of communication devices around, then you want to put people in charge of it that you trust, and not going to be, messing with your head. Tony, you are so right, my friend. It sounds just like a friggin' movie. Ah, God. And weird one at that. A very weird one at that. I did want to talk briefly about Richo's funeral today. I resisted putting up the Jabba the Hutt picture that I had with its tail coming out the back of the hearse. But nice to see so many of the Communist Party and the traitors turning up to see off a man who was in great part responsible for much of the bastardry that we are going through to this day. I don't care. Many people say, oh, he's a great bloke, he was a great bloke. I remember what he was like. And he was a power broker of brutal proportions. And he was brutal in wielding that power. And he loved it. He reveled in it. And that power extended well outside of Canberra, well outside of politics. And I think poor old Richo was involved with a lot of the people that we would be seeking the names of, including the 28. I'm not saying he was one of the 28, although I probably could. Also, I wanted to touch on Riccardo tonight. Riccardo is issuing orders by the look of it. Now, I don't disagree with this and what he's saying here. These are issues we should be protesting. Well, the issues are fine. I just disagree that we should be protesting, Riccardo. I also think that it would be good if you, stop talking to your American audiences. I've watched a video that Riccardo put out today. I don't know if he put it out today. I only watched it today. Where he acknowledges that most of his work is in America these days because for some reason they want to talk to him. Well, American operations is where it's all at, and it's going to rain down on Australia, apparently. You need to be talking to Australians, Rick. You really, really need to be talking to Australians. And I would urge, even more than talking to Australians, I would urge you to use whatever influence you have in your former military friends to exert some influence over the military and start telling us where they stand and why, after exerting whatever influence you have in the leadership, because you were in the leadership, Rick, let's be honest, you were in the leadership of a very significant portion of the military. You know where the bodies are buried, you know who to talk to, and can probably gain access. How is it you haven't been talking and building a crew, your old team together, who also have a network of contacts that they could be utilizing to spread the word about what we're doing here, so that when the time comes, and the time is going to come, where the people have had enough and they're going to call upon the police, who, for varying different reasons, won't be home that day, will be out doing something else, or will turn up to kill you, we'll call on the military to help us. Now, you're the only bloke that I know with great deep contacts into the heart of the leadership of the military. So rather than speaking to your mates over in America about America, why don't you come and speak to us about why the Australian military isn't supporting you or me or John or anybody else in this fight we're going through. Because right now, I think the Australian people really do need a bit more than notes like the one we've just got saying from the 7th of December, military law is going to be enacted. We're all very hopeful, prayerful, in fact, that such a thing will happen. We've been that way for the last 5 years. But I'll be honest, many people have spoken to me about how difficult it is for them to keep going, that, they've been in this fight for 5 years, 4 years, 3 years, however long. Everybody's different. And they've lost family, they've lost friends. In some cases, they've lost jobs. They've lost access to grandchildren. And now some of them are pretty beaten up. I'm wondering, shit, have I got to go and fight all this again? And of course, the answer to that is yes, you do. And of course, they will. Because we've fought it once, folks. We can fight it again. We just get sick and tired of hearing the end is nigh, the end is nigh. Because eventually, when the end is nigh, scenario gives up, we know it's not coming, somebody's going to do something. Organizations will be formed. There will be a shift in power balance. And we want to be prepared for that. I'm not saying, this is a rising up kind of thing. It's not. This could be that unique leader that I was talking about the other day. Somebody that is charismatic, that can reach across the divide, unite everybody, and bring together a solution we can all work with. We don't necessarily have to be happy with. We are not going to fix this in one fell swoop unless we clean the place out completely and start with a whole new system. But I don't think the country has the appetite for that kind of civil uprising. I don't think we have the numbers yet for that kind of civil uprising. To do it would be tantamount to suicide. And not just physical suicide, because we'd be bloody shot by the forces defending the places we'd need to be inside of, but we would be hung out to dry by the general public, who sadly still haven't woken up. But every day, there are new things waking people up. Things like this Annika Wells saga, where, she is just on the gravy train. How many other Labor gravy trains are there? How many Liberal ones are there? All right, let's not be single-handed here. Let's be fully open and let's have a look at them all. Now, this happened a long time ago, back in the, I don't know, I want to say the 90s. A lot of ministers were using money. I think Tony Burke had to. In fact, Tony Burke got caught. He had to pay back some thousands of dollars for some trip he took his family on and tried to write it off on government expenses. But it even dates back further than that, back into the 90s. And that's why some of these guidelines have been written by the government flunkies to allow politicians to pervert our money, to subvert our money, maybe not pervert it. They pervert us in so many other ways, the bastards. But, yeah, so I've talked a bit tonight, haven't I? 1:15. Wow, I've done a 15 minutes longer than normal. I apologise. Should have shut up ages ago. So I will just finish on Rick. The offer is always here to come out and talk. To not come and talk to an Australian audience other than the one that you generate yourself, which isn't what I would call all-encompassing. We need to help to spread the message, and I believe that Rick has some messages worth spreading. He's certainly very inspirational at times, and I'm always happy to help. But I'm not happy to tell lies to people, and I'm not happy to have, what I am happy to have is communication. There needs to be communication, and that goes for all of us. You, me, anybody who's doing what I'm doing, we need to be communicating. We need to be trying to work together, and we need to be trying to expose the things that we can expose. Now, one of the things Rick's working hard to expose on was a gentleman he interviewed who made the outstanding statement that 315 homes in Jervis Bay were involved in drugs or child trafficking. I don't even know if there are 315 homes in Jervis Bay. Pardon me, I'd be surprised if there was. However, he did seem to have some first-hand knowledge of the pedophilia rings and all that sort of stuff. So by all means, let's fight that together. Let's expose that together. Let's bring this all out and give it the widest possible audience that we can. And let's start helping Australians wake up that little bit faster. Let's help motivate those of you that watch us and listen to us and sometimes get inspired by us. Let's give you something to be inspired about. Rest assured, this is not a frightening time ahead. I view it as a really exciting time ahead, a really exciting time. Yes, it's all a movie, but we are playing an active role in that movie, whether we know it or not. Now, you can be just, someone who stands on the sidelines and watches it all go past, or you can play what tiny little role you can, like I am, a tiny little role, as the whole thing plunders along. Throw yourself into the stream and start swimming. Embrace it. Don't be frightened of it. A movie never killed anyone. Poor choices, bad decisions, and being a dickhead on the road, that's killed a few. Good night, folks.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back.
Does anybody else want to stay?